You're a big supporter of Convention of States. As you know, I've written about it. I'm a big supporter. And the organization, Mark Meckler and Patty, great organization with millions and millions of active members. You support that movement, don't you? And why do you support it?
Well, Mark, I think you pointed out what we've done in Florida, and that was 100% in spite of legacy media constantly smearing us, especially during COVID, as they were saying we were the worst. Everyone was coming to Florida. So people get it, and they see that states like Florida can deliver results. The same has not been the case with the Congress in Washington, D.C. We've just had letdown after letdown for many, many years, and I'm convinced that we're not going to save the country unless we get structural changes in the Constitution to rein in the entrenched politicians in D.C. So there are two ways to amend the Constitution. The first way is the way it's been done traditionally. 2/3 of both houses of the federal Congress send an amendment to the states, or you can do through the states, which is the Article 5 convention, where 2/3 of the states trigger a meeting where you can draft amendment or amendments and then send to the states for ratification. In each case, though, Mark, because there's a lot of fear-mongering about Article 5, in each case, the ratification is the same. 3/4 of the state legislatures must do it. And so sometimes people say, oh, yeah, I'd love to have a balanced budget requirement. I'd love to have term limits for Congress. But if we did in Article 5, then it would be a, quote, runaway convention, and they could take away the Second Amendment. Just understand, what you're saying is that you would think 3/4 of the states would actually ratify something like that. That would not happen. I think we all know that. The founders set a very high bar for ratification. But I think on these bread and butter things, like term limits, like balanced budget, I think you'd get a lot of support across the country. And the founders set it up this way for a reason, because they knew sometimes the capital, the federal capital, would be the problem with Congress and the power that would be accumulating. And obviously President Trump's done a lot of yeoman's work to try to break up the big administrative state. But this happened over many, many decades, and I'm just not convinced that the current situation with the current Congress and the incentives that are there, we're ultimately going to be able to get the job done without constitutional reform. So you've been a big outspoken proponent. In Florida, we've certified everything possible that people talk about across all these different issues, and I know other states are doing it, and it is gaining momentum because I think people understand. I mean, ultimately, we're not powerless in this. We can act through the states. The states created the federal government, not the other way around. There is no reason why states can't lead on amending the Constitution as the founders provided for.
So well said, Governor. The biggest obstacle in many respects is psychological. People don't understand that this country was founded by states, and they created the federal government. And so the propaganda, the indoctrination, the education over these decades is the all-powerful federal government when it was supposed to be the other way around. And the states have this power, don't they? Because George Mason said, what happens if Congress is corrupt? Your point. He said, what happens? Congress isn't going to fix itself. There has to be another way. So 3 days before the end of the Constitutional Convention, they added this language. And, Convention of States, I wrote a book on it. We're pushing it. We're getting truly great statesmen like you and others to get behind this movement and so forth. And even when Donald Trump leaves, and even if look what's happening in your state. Look at how all these Lilliputians come forward, and all of a sudden they want to change everything and so forth. The key thing you said is structural change the constitutional way, not through judges and all the rest of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm very practical on this. Having been governor, I did serve a few terms in the U.S. Congress. I fully recovered from that experience, but I did do it, and I learned a lot there. But basically, most of the people that get elected for office are not what you and I would consider to be true believers. They're kind of politicians. They got into it for whatever reason, and so they're going to respond to the incentives that are in front of them. And right now, the incentives in Congress are to get reelected as many times as possible. And ultimately, in order to do that, you don't want to make tough decisions that may create opposition to you. So, of course, you're going to prefer to put spending on the credit card rather than reduce spending, because when you reduce spending, there's some people that get upset about that. So those are just the incentives. And yes, maybe you elect a bunch of statesmen in one election, but the reality is over the medium and long term, even if somehow you did that, it would revert back to what we've seen if you have term limits, people know, hey, I'm only going to be here 3 terms, 4 terms, whatever it is, maybe 2 terms in the Senate, and then a balanced budget requirement. I got to make tough choices here. We can't keep bankrupting the country. It just changes the way people would approach it. I think it would change some of the people that may not be willing to run for office. I think you get some quality people that would want to go in under different circumstances. And so I'm just a big believer that most of these folks are going to do what's in their immediate self-interest. Just as James Madison said, enlightened statesmen are not always going to be at the helm, so you got to provide the incentives there to get better outcomes.